Imagine a world untouched by modernity, a realm teeming with mysteries and divine secrets. What was life like before the Great Flood? Introduction to the pre-flood era. Welcome to Decode Vale, where we delve deep into the spiritual and historical mysteries of our world. Today, we embark on a journey to explore the enigmatic era before the Great Flood. This period, as depicted in the early chapters of Genesis, presents a world vastly different from the one we know today. In the beginning, the world was a place of divine creation and close interaction between God and humanity. Genesis introduces us to a time when humans lived for centuries, experiencing life in ways unimaginable to us. Adam and Eve, the first humans, enjoyed a direct relationship with God in the Garden of Eden, symbolizing an era of innocence and divine connection. This pre-flood era is also marked by the presence of divine beings on earth. The sons of God mentioned in Genesis 6:2 have intrigued theologians and scholars for centuries. Were they angels, divine messengers, or something else entirely? Their interactions with humans led to significant and often mysterious events that shaped early human history. Throughout this period, we see a close relationship between humanity and the divine. The long lifespans of figures such as Adam, who lived 930 years, and Methuselah, who lived 969 years, reflect a different rhythm of life, one that allowed for deep spiritual and personal growth over centuries. However, this era was not without its challenges. The narrative of early humanity is intertwined with tales of sin and rebellion. From the first act of disobedience in the garden to the growing wickedness that ultimately led to the flood, the pre-flood world was a complex and multifaceted epoch. Join us as we continue to explore this fascinating period, uncovering the stories of key characters, the moral and spiritual decline of humanity, and the divine interventions that shaped our ancient past. Stay tuned as Decode Vale delves deeper into the mysteries of the world before the flood. Key characters and events. As we journey through the pre-flood era, the lives of key characters and their experiences offer us a window into the early days of humanity. Let's delve into the stories of Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, and Noah, whose lives and actions were pivotal during this ancient time. Adam and Eve, the first humans created by God, lived in the Garden of Eden, a paradise where they enjoyed direct communion with the Creator. Their story begins with innocence and divine fellowship but soon turns to tragedy. The serpent's temptation and their subsequent disobedience introduced sin into the world, marking the beginning of humanity's moral decline. Following their expulsion from Eden, Adam and Eve's lives continued outside the paradise. They had two sons, Cain and Abel, whose story is both tragic and instructive. Abel, a shepherd, offered a pleasing sacrifice to God, while Cain, a farmer, offered a less acceptable one. In a fit of jealousy and anger, Cain murdered his brother Abel, committing the first act of fratricide. Cain's act of violence set a precedent for human sin and strife. His descendants carried forward this legacy of moral corruption, introducing practices such as polygamy and furthering humanity's distance from God. The Bible tells us that Lamech, a descendant of Cain, also committed murder, showcasing the continued decline of human morality. In contrast, another lineage from Adam and Eve produced Enoch, a man who walked with God. Enoch's righteousness and his eventual ascension to heaven without experiencing death provided a glimmer of hope and a reminder of humanity's potential for good amidst growing wickedness. But perhaps the most significant figure of this era is Noah. Amidst widespread corruption, Noah was found to be righteous. God chose him to be the instrument of humanity's survival and the bearer of a new covenant. Noah's unwavering faith and obedience led him to build the ark, following God's detailed instructions to save his family and pairs of every living creature from the impending flood. The stories of these key characters, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Enoch, and Noah, highlight the complexities of human nature and divine intervention. They set the stage for the catastrophic events that would reshape the world and lead to a new beginning for humanity. Join us next as we explore the forces leading to the flood, including the rebellion of Satan and the fallen angels, and the escalating moral decline that necessitated divine judgment. Stay tuned to Decode Vale for deeper insights into these ancient, yet ever-relevant stories. Forces leading to the flood. As we continue our journey through the pre-flood world, it's essential to understand the forces that led to the Great Deluge. This segment will explore the rebellion of Satan and the fallen angels, the moral decline of humanity, and the divine interventions that shaped this ancient epoch. The story of the flood begins with the rebellion of Satan and the fallen angels. According to biblical accounts, Satan, once a high-ranking angel, chose to rebel against God, leading a group of angels in defiance. This act of rebellion caused a significant spiritual and moral shift in the heavenly realms and on earth. In passages like Job 38:4-7, the Bible speaks of the sons of God, who witnessed the creation of the earth. These beings, often interpreted as angels, played a pivotal role in early human history. Some of these angels, led by Satan, chose to forsake their divine duties, descending to earth and interacting with humans in ways that led to further moral and spiritual corruption. The fallen angels' interactions with humans took a particularly troubling turn when they began to interbreed with human women. This union produced the Nephilim, a race of giants mentioned in Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim's presence on earth exacerbated human wickedness and accelerated the moral decline that had already begun with Adam and Eve's disobedience. Humanity's moral decline was further highlighted by the first murder, committed by Cain, who killed his brother Abel. This act of violence set a precedent for human sin, leading to a lineage marked by corruption and strife. Cain's descendants, including figures like Lamech, continued this legacy, introducing practices like polygamy and further contributing to the widespread wickedness. As the population grew, so did the prevalence of sin and violence. Despite their long lifespans, early humans failed to maintain their righteousness, and the earth became filled with corruption. This widespread moral decline grieved God, who saw the growing wickedness and decided that a drastic measure was necessary to cleanse the world. In Genesis 6:6-7, it is written that God regretted creating humans due to their wickedness and decided to send a great flood to destroy all life, sparing only the righteous Noah and his family. This decision set the stage for a divine reset, aimed at purging the earth of its corruption and beginning anew. The forces leading to the flood, Satan's rebellion, the fallen angels' transgressions, and humanity's escalating sin, highlight the complex interplay between divine and human actions. These events ultimately led to the flood, a cataclysmic event that reshaped the world and offered a chance for a fresh start. Humanity's moral decline. As we delve deeper into the pre-flood world, it's clear that humanity's moral decline played a significant role in the events leading up to the Great Flood. This segment explores the escalating sin and violence that marked this ancient era. One of the earliest and most telling signs of humanity's moral decline was the story of Cain and Abel. Cain, consumed by jealousy and anger, murdered his brother Abel. This act of fratricide not only highlighted the growing presence of sin but also set a precedent for violence and moral corruption among early humans. Following this tragic event, Cain was marked and sent away, but his descendants continued to reflect his legacy of violence and moral corruption. Among them was Lamech, who is recorded in Genesis 4:23-24 as boasting about killing a man for wounding him, and a young man for injuring him. This escalation in violence and pride further exemplified humanity's departure from divine principles. Cain's descendants not only perpetuated violence but also introduced new forms of moral decay. Lamech's introduction of polygamy, taking multiple wives, further strayed from God's original plan for human relationships. This shift indicated a broader societal decline, where divine intentions were increasingly ignored. The pre-flood world was also marked by an increasing population. With long lifespans, early humans lived for centuries, allowing them to accumulate wealth, power, and influence. However, instead of using these gifts for good, many chose paths of corruption, leading to widespread sin and violence. Genesis 6:5 describes this era vividly, stating, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." Amidst this growing corruption, there were a few notable exceptions. Enoch, known for his righteousness, walked with God and was taken up to heaven without experiencing death, as recorded in Genesis 5:24. Enoch's life stood as a beacon of hope and a reminder that faithfulness to God was still possible even in the darkest times. Methuselah, Enoch's son, lived the longest of any human recorded in the Bible, reaching 969 years. While the Bible does not provide extensive details about Methuselah's life, his long lifespan symbolized the enduring potential for human connection to the divine, even as the world around him grew increasingly wicked. The moral decline of humanity was profound and all-encompassing. As sin and violence became rampant, the need for divine intervention became ever more apparent. This escalation of wickedness set the stage for God's decision to cleanse the world through the Great Flood, preserving only Noah, his family, and the creatures aboard the ark. Population growth and sin. As we continue our exploration of the pre-flood world, it becomes evident that the rapid population growth played a crucial role in the spread of sin and violence. This segment delves into how the long lifespans of early humans contributed to both the development of civilization and the escalation of wickedness. In the pre-flood era, humans experienced incredibly long lifespans, often living for several centuries. This longevity allowed for extensive knowledge, skills, and wealth to accumulate, leading to the rapid growth of populations and the development of early civilizations. While these extended lifespans provided opportunities for growth and advancement, they also contributed to an increase in sin and corruption. With more time to indulge in wicked behaviors, humanity's moral decline accelerated. Genesis 1-2 describes how the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. This intermingling led to the birth of the Nephilim, a race of giants who further exacerbated the wickedness on earth. As populations grew, so did the prevalence of sin and violence. The increasing number of people meant more opportunities for conflict, greed, and immoral behavior. Genesis 6:5 paints a grim picture of this era. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The moral decline of humanity wasn't just limited to interpersonal violence and corruption. It extended to the very fabric of society, where the norms and values that once upheld righteousness were increasingly abandoned. This widespread wickedness led to societal structures that perpetuated sin, from the introduction of polygamy by Lamech to the further spread of violence by his descendants. Despite the pervasive wickedness, there were still individuals who maintained their righteousness. Enoch, who walked with God, and was taken to heaven without experiencing death, and Methuselah, the longest living human, serve as reminders that it was possible to live a life of faith and integrity even in a corrupt world. The rapid population growth, combined with the escalating sin and moral decay, set the stage for divine intervention. As humanity strayed further from God's intentions, the necessity for a drastic measure to cleanse the earth became increasingly apparent. In the next segment, we'll explore the emergence of professions and civilizations in the pre-flood world, and how these developments influenced human society. Stay tuned to Decode Vale as we continue to uncover the profound and timeless lessons from these ancient narratives. Special individuals. Even amidst the widespread corruption and moral decay of the pre-flood world, there were individuals who stood out for their righteousness and faith. This segment highlights the lives of Enoch and Methuselah, whose stories offer hope and spiritual lessons for us today. Enoch is one of the most intriguing figures in the pre-flood era. Mentioned in Genesis 5:24, Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. This brief but profound statement indicates a life of deep communion with the divine, a stark contrast to the prevailing wickedness of his time. Enoch's life stands as a testament to the possibility of maintaining righteousness even in a corrupt world. His close relationship with God and his ultimate ascension to heaven without experiencing death serve as powerful reminders of the rewards of faithfulness and spiritual integrity. Another significant figure from this era is Methuselah, Enoch's son, who holds the record for the longest human lifespan, living 969 years. Methuselah's long life symbolizes endurance and the continuity of the righteous line amidst a world increasingly plagued by sin. Although the Bible provides limited details about Methuselah's life, his remarkable longevity suggests a life that witnessed significant historical and spiritual events. His existence bridges the gap between the antediluvian world and the approaching cataclysm of the flood. Enoch and Methuselah's lives offer a stark contrast to the surrounding wickedness. Their stories provide a glimpse of hope and demonstrate that even in the darkest times, individuals can choose righteousness and remain close to God. As we reflect on the lives of these special individuals, we are reminded of the enduring power of faith, and the importance of spiritual integrity. Their stories encourage us to seek deeper connections with the divine and to strive for righteousness in our own lives. Emergence of professions and civilization. While the pre-flood world was marked by significant moral decline, it was also a period of remarkable human advancement. This segment explores the emergence of professions and the development of early civilizations, which played a crucial role in shaping human society. As populations grew and communities expanded, the need for diverse professions became increasingly apparent. Genesis 4:20-22 introduces us to some of the key figures in this era of innovation. Jabal, the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock; Jubal, the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes; and Tuvalcain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron, were pioneers of their respective fields. These individuals contributed to the development of early human civilization, laying the foundation for agricultural, cultural, and technological advancements. Jabal's innovations in livestock management and nomadic living allowed for more sustainable and efficient ways of life, essential for the growing populations. Jubal, known for his musical contributions, played a significant role in the cultural development of early humans. His introduction of stringed instruments and pipes not only provided entertainment but also facilitated communal gatherings and spiritual expressions. Tuvalcain's mastery of metallurgy marked a significant technological leap for humanity. By forging tools out of bronze and iron, he enabled advancements in agriculture, construction, and warfare. These tools revolutionized daily life, making tasks more efficient and paving the way for future innovations. The emergence of these professions was not just about survival and practical advancements, it also reflected the complexity and creativity of the human spirit. As communities became more organized and specialized, early civilizations began to take shape, characterized by increased cooperation, trade, and cultural exchange. However, these advancements also brought new challenges. The increased complexity of society sometimes led to greater opportunities for sin and corruption. The very tools and skills that advanced civilization were also used for destructive purposes, contributing to the moral decline that necessitated divine intervention. The stories of Jabal, Jubal, and Tuvalcain illustrate the dual-edged nature of human progress. While their contributions significantly advanced early human society, they also highlight the potential for innovation to be both a blessing and a curse. The Nephilim and further corruption. Among the many intriguing and troubling aspects of the pre-flood world is the presence of the Nephilim. This segment delves into the story of these mysterious beings and their impact on humanity's moral decline. The Nephilim are first mentioned in Genesis 6:4, described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of humans. These beings, often interpreted as giants, played a significant role in the increasing wickedness of the pre-flood era. The sons of God, believed by many scholars to be fallen angels, took human wives, and their unions produced the Nephilim. These giants were known for their great size and strength, but also for their propensity for violence and corruption. Their presence on earth further exacerbated the moral decline that had already begun with human disobedience and sin. The Nephilim were not just physical giants, their influence permeated human society, leading to further moral and spiritual corruption. Genesis 6:5 describes this period with stark clarity. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The influence of the Nephilim led to an increase in violence, oppression, and wickedness. Their dominance and the resulting societal corruption made the pre-flood world a place of great turmoil and strife. The moral and spiritual degradation was so profound that it prompted God to intervene decisively. The presence of the Nephilim was a significant factor in God's decision to cleanse the earth with the flood. Their actions and the resulting human corruption highlighted the need for a divine reset, paving the way for a new beginning through Noah and his family. The story of the Nephilim is a powerful reminder of the potential for both divine and human actions to lead to profound consequences. Their legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of moral and spiritual corruption, and the importance of maintaining faith and integrity. In our next segment, we'll explore God's grief over humanity's wickedness and his decision to destroy the earth with a flood, sparing only the righteous Noah and his family. Stay tuned to Decode Vale for deeper insights into these ancient and impactful narratives. God's grief and decision to destroy humanity. As the moral and spiritual decay of the pre-flood world reached its peak, God's response was one of profound grief. This segment explores the divine sorrow over humanity's wickedness, and the decision to bring about the Great Flood. The Bible recounts that as humanity's wickedness grew, it deeply grieved God. Genesis 6:5-6 captures this sorrow, stating, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled." This profound regret and sorrow led God to make a momentous decision. The world had become so corrupted by sin and violence that a drastic measure was necessary to restore righteousness and order. God decided to cleanse the earth with a great flood, sparing only the righteous Noah and his family. God's choice to send the flood was both an act of judgment and an opportunity for a new beginning. Genesis 6:7 records God's words, "So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them." Amidst this widespread wickedness, Noah stood out as a beacon of righteousness. Genesis 6:8-9 tells us, "But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord." Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah's faith and obedience set him apart, making him the chosen instrument for humanity's survival. God provided Noah with detailed instructions to build an ark, a massive vessel designed to preserve life during the impending flood. Despite the mockery and disbelief of those around him, Noah faithfully followed God's commands, gathering his family and pairs of all living creatures to ensure their survival. The decision to destroy humanity and start anew was not taken lightly. It was a response to the pervasive corruption and a necessary step to restore divine order. Through Noah, God preserved a remnant of righteousness, offering hope for a renewed world. The grief and decision to cleanse the earth through the flood serve as a powerful reminder of the consequences of moral and spiritual decline. They also highlight God's desire for righteousness, and the lengths to which he will go to achieve it. Noah's Ark and the Flood. The story of Noah's Ark and the Great Flood is one of the most dramatic and significant narratives in the Bible. This segment explores the construction of the Ark, the deluge that followed, and the preservation of life on earth. God chose Noah, a righteous man, to build an ark that would save his family and pairs of every living creature. Genesis 6:13-14 recounts God's instructions. "So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out." Despite the enormity of the task and the ridicule from his contemporaries, Noah demonstrated unwavering faith and obedience. For years, he and his family labored to construct the ark according to God's precise specifications, a vessel large enough to house his family and pairs of all creatures. As the ark neared completion, Noah gathered the animals. Genesis 7:8-9 describes this moment: "Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah." This divine orchestration ensured the survival of Earth's biodiversity. Once all were aboard, the floodwaters came. Genesis 7:11-12 details the onset. "In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. And rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. For 40 days and 40 nights, the floodwaters rose, covering even the highest mountains. All life outside the ark perished, fulfilling God's judgment on a corrupt world. But inside the ark, Noah and his family, along with the animals, remained safe, sustained by their faith and God's promise. After the rain stopped, the waters gradually receded. Genesis 8:1 recounts, "But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark, and he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded." Eventually, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. After spending over a year in the ark, Noah and his family finally stepped onto dry land. Genesis 8:20 describes Noah's first act. "Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and, taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it." This act of worship marked the beginning of a renewed relationship between God and humanity. In response, God made a covenant with Noah, symbolized by the rainbow. Genesis 9:12-13 records this promise, "And God said, 'This is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth.'" This covenant assured that never again would a flood destroy all life on earth. The story of Noah's Ark and the flood is a powerful narrative of judgment, faith, and renewal. It reminds us of the importance of righteousness and obedience to God, and it offers hope for new beginnings even after profound trials. The flood and new beginning. The Great Flood was both an end and a beginning, a cataclysmic event that marked the transition from a world steeped in corruption to one ripe for renewal. In this segment, we explore the aftermath of the flood and the new beginnings that emerged from it. After 40 days and 40 nights of relentless rain, and months of waiting for the waters to recede, Noah and his family finally stepped out of the ark into a cleansed and transformed world. Genesis 8:18-19 describes this moment. "So Noah came out, together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives. All the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another." Noah's first act upon leaving the ark was to build an altar and offer sacrifices to God, an expression of gratitude and worship. Genesis 8:20 tells us, "Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and, taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it." This act of devotion marked the beginning of a renewed covenant between God and humanity. In response to Noah's faithfulness, God made a covenant with Noah and all living creatures. This covenant, symbolized by the rainbow, was a divine promise never to destroy the earth with a flood again. Genesis 9:12-13 records God's words, "And God said, 'This is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth.'" With the earth renewed, Noah's family began the task of rebuilding human civilization. Genesis 9:1 recounts God's blessing and command to them. "Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, 'Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth.'" This directive echoed the original blessing given to Adam and Eve, signaling a fresh start for humanity. Noah's descendants would go on to repopulate the earth, establishing new communities and civilizations. This post-flood world, cleansed of its former corruption, provided a renewed opportunity for humanity to live in accordance with divine principles. The legacy of Noah and the Great Flood serves as a powerful reminder of God's justice and mercy. It underscores the importance of righteousness and faith, and it highlights the enduring hope for renewal even after the deepest trials. As we reflect on these ancient narratives, let us remember the lessons they impart, the value of faithfulness, the significance of divine covenants, and the perpetual possibility of new beginnings. The story of Noah's Ark and the flood continues to inspire and guide us in our spiritual journey. Thank you for joining us on Decode Vale as we explored the profound events of the pre-flood world, the Great Flood, and the new beginnings that followed.